Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Good evening. This is Young Penitent, and welcome to my Icon Corner. Tonight, we are going to have a returning guest, David Maricos Rhodes, also known as David Treebeard online, and he is the owner of Steadfast Provisions, and which is a Pemmican company. We had him on once before. You could go. I think the video was called Eating the Fat of the Land. If you wanted to go catch that video after the live stream and double up, that might be a good idea if you want to know all the deets. And so we're welcoming him back on. We're going to be talking about MAHA, Make America Healthy Again. We're going to be talking about his company, his Kickstarter, and we're going to just be chilling tonight. So with that, I'll add you to the stage. Welcome, David.
Good evening. Glad to be here. Good to see you.
Yeah, you too. How are you doing?
Doing well, man. Just recovered from a little winter cold, and enjoying myself.
Are you
excited about a lot of things, a lot of dynamic things happening here in America?
Oh, yeah. I feel you with that. I mean, it's like people are kind of in disbelief because, like we're seeing with, the Trump presidency. He just got inaugurated a few weeks ago, and he had a flurry of executive orders, and a lot of people and our kind of people like what they're seeing, and it's like, he's like making two genders illegal, really just moving in a good direction for the country, and people are kind of in disbelief because it seems to always go in the wrong direction, So like people are just like holding their breath.
People are holding their breath. For one, I'm not really one to put my faith in the princes and the sons of men, but
Sure.
I like a lot of these things that are happening, and I also think there's a lot of good that was sort of hinted at right after the election that we need to happen, but hasn't happened so far. So we need to keep working on this stuff, and I can get into the details of that, but basically, my opinion is that if you want to make America healthy again, if you want to MAHA, then you have to make America farm again, and you have to make America natural again. And one of the things that tempers my optimism and my enthusiasm about this whole administration so far is that they have this massive artificial intelligence infrastructure build out being pushed. And I know they're already talking about how that's going to integrate with MAHA, right? So when you talk about like RFK Jr., you have to wonder, like, how is that guy going to coexist with Larry Ellison talking about the AI generated mRNA cancer vaccines?
Who is Larry Ellison?
Larry Ellison is the founder of Oracle. He's one of the richest men in the world, and he's a big investor in that whole what's it called, Stargate, the whole Stargate AI thing going on, opening up the gates so that the principalities and powers can come into this world through them. Stargate. That's Larry Ellison, and then the guy with SoftBank and Sam Altman, and of course Elon, old Elon. So basically, that's one vision of making America healthy again, is to have personally designed artificial intelligence generated cancer vaccines.
Sure.
Which is, in my opinion, that's totally insane. on a lot of levels.
Right.
And something I will not be partaking in.
No.
I wouldn't recommend. So, on the other hand, right after the election, there were whispers that Massey, that guy from Kentucky, Thomas Massey, was going to get the secretary of the USDA job, which was pretty exciting because that guy is, for one thing, he's like a legit farmer. He grows a lot of his own food. He
I saw that documentary. It's a really good documentary if people want to find it. It's on YouTube about his homestead that he's got cattle there, and he like built his own home and everything. It's really interesting. Did you see that one?
Not the whole thing, no, but I know he's a big raw milk guy, and he designed like a solar powered mobile chicken coop. All this cool stuff, man. He basically gives us a great model of what more people should be doing to make America healthy again, right? So if he took over the USDA, you could really see some good changes coming down the pipe. And then they also mentioned maybe they would get Joel Salatin as an advisor to him. I don't know if you've heard of him, but
of course
he's the lunatic farmer, probably the most famous farmer in the country, who is like a wizard at building soil with cows and running humane livestock operations. And so that's a big passion of mine as is the livestock.
Right. You have a background in farming, right? You spent some time doing some small scale farming, I believe, right? You want to tell us a little bit?
Medium scale, small scale, mostly in Oregon and Washington, raising cattle, chickens, pigs, sheep, and love it.
Mostly animal. It was mostly animals then.
Mostly animals. I did work on a couple of vegetable farms, and then did a couple of research projects working with corn and potatoes, which is also awesome.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, working with the livestock, and I'd love to have a ranch again soon, a farm again soon. But in the meantime, working on this Pemmican company, and really the whole genesis of the Pemmican company is from small farms. Like, I got the idea because I was working at these small farms and we were selling frozen beef and fresh vegetables and stuff. And I would go to the farmer's market, and some of the beef would thaw out at the market. And if there was like a football game, people wouldn't show up, at the market, and you wouldn't sell. So you would bring home all this produce, and you'd have to like compost produce and then, eat the meat yourself rather than sell it. And so it's just the farmer's market model is really difficult and overall pretty inefficient economically. And with so much happening in the world of e-commerce, I was constantly thinking, how do I make a local, small, family-owned producer farm product that can be stored as inventory and then shipped, so people can order it online, and then you can send it to them anywhere around the country on demand. And then I discovered Pemmican, which is the most long-lasting, like small and lightweight version of meat, basically. And it can be shipped anywhere relatively cheap because it's lightweight and it's small. So I was like, this is kind of the perfect e-commerce food product, and it also it's totally natural. Pemmican is actually an interesting part of the whole MAHA plan as well, because right now a lot of our armed service members are eating like just straight garbage when they're on mission,
Right. Those MREs,
not very good. One of the nicknames they have for MREs is meals refusing to exit. Another one is meals rejected by Ethiopia. I don't know the story there, but it gives you the idea of these MREs are not really food. And
sure.
Pemmican is essentially an MRE. It's like a keto MRE.
Yeah.
And it's super healthy. There's no preservatives. You eat a lot of pemmican.
I do. Yeah. For those who don't know, I did buy some of his stuff that I have stored of his product, the Steadfast Provisions. But he basically told me how to make it, so I just make it myself, and I eat pemmican for most days for breakfast because I'm on a keto carnivore diet, and so it's just the perfect. It's basically the perfect food. It's got like 50% calories, or what is it, like 60-70% are fat, and
yeah,
and protein.
Yeah, if you make it the right way, you get about 72% of your calories from fat, which is perfect for keto.
Yeah.
You don't want too much protein in keto relative to the fat. It's the breakfast of champions for sure, and the breakfast of fur trappers. It's the food that won the West.
Yeah,
And if
tell us about that.
well, yeah, it's pemmican is sort of the quintessential North American food. You have basically in Central America, you had corn, and then in the North, you had pemmican, right? So the tribes from, Nebraska and up, a lot of what they ate was bison pemmican, and even down into Texas, they were eating tons of bison. There were something like 60 to 80 million bison in North America 250 years ago. And pemmican basically is the best way to preserve meat, whether it's bison or cattle. So basically, you take the lean beef, the lean muscle, and then you cut it into thin strips and dry it either in the sun or with a little smokehouse, and then you pound that with rock into a little powder. There's a scene in Dances with Wolves, great movie, that old Kevin Costner movie. And there's women sitting outside of a teepee, pounding meat with a mortar and pestle. So that's sort of the only cinematic representation of pemmican that I know of. And then they would also take the fat, so the bone marrow, the back fat, and the kidney fat from these bison. Bone marrow is the most prized because it's sort of luscious and really yummy and flavorful. And then they would render that fat into liquid. And then they would take a rawhide bag. So they would sew, using the sinews of the bison, they would sew together 2 big pieces of rawhide and then coat the seam with the rendered fat to seal it. And then they would stuff that with the lean dried beef, and then they would pour in the rest of the rendered fat over that. So basically it was called a piece, either a piece or a toro. And that would be basically a 90-pound rawhide pillow. And that would be like 1 bison.
I guess they would have to probably mix it up somehow, right? Like if they're pouring it on top.
So their process, they would basically stuff the bag super tight with this dried beef. And then the rendered fat would trickle down. Yeah. And I think they probably would store it on its side, and then after a couple of minutes flip it over so that it didn't all settle to the bottom,
Right.
Yeah. And then so basically you'd have this 90-pound condensation of a buffalo. And there's actually a verb in the Merriam-Webster dictionary called to pemmicanize, which is the act of taking something and making it into its most concentrated form. So that could be boiling down a broth until it's bouillon. You would call that pemmicanizing it. If you have something really long-winded that you're saying like I am right now, and then you are able to distill it down into 1 sentence rather than 1 paragraph, that's pemmicanizing something. So it's basically concentrating, getting the goodness, and making it as long-lasting and as easy to transport as possible. So it's ancient technology. And in the 18th century, the Hudson's Bay Company and the Northwest Company were these 2 beaver fur trapping companies that were based in Canada around the Red River Valley, which is North Dakota and Canada. And they were competing to see who could go further west, further northwest to get more beaver pelts, basically, because they would trap out an entire region until there were no more beaver and then just like keep going, keep going. And beaver was the main economy of the American West, basically. Everywhere west of the Ohio River was built around beaver pelts because the women in London needed their hats, right? And so basically, it was this fierce cutthroat competition, and these two companies actually went to war over pemmican because the pemmican was just the optimal food source. They couldn't really go that far into the Northwest Territories without pemmican. There was just no other thing that compared, basically, in terms of performance. So you have basically a whole industry that grew up around making pemmican, and it's really what decimated the Canadian bison herd, unfortunately.
How was there a war? Did they like have their own army? Like the companies have armies or what?
It wasn't like armies. It was more like fur trappers shooting at each other.
Really?
Shooting each other, yeah. And they were both dealing with this ethnic group called the Métis, which means mixed, which was like they were half French and half like Assiniboine, I think is the name of the tribe. And so they were sort of a in-between people, and they were the pemmican makers. They were like the ones who had dialed it into an absolute science and an industry. And then I think there was one situation where like the Métis were trying to get the best price. So they were like, okay, Northwest Company, what do you give us? Hudson Bay, what do you give us? And then they would go back and forth. And then they sold it to the Northwest Company, and the Hudson Bay like rolled in and stole it. And so the Northwest Company went after them, and they were shooting each other.
Wow.
It was crazy. It was really cutthroat. And you really couldn't survive out there without the pemmican in those days.
Right.
And that, unfortunately, kind of came to a close when they more or less destroyed the Canadian bison herd. A lot of people don't know there were probably 30% of the total buffalo in North America were in Canada, 20 to 30%. And here in the States, the bison were mostly killed for their pelts, right? And so that's what really caused the extermination of the bison here in the lower 48. But in Canada, they were killed for pemmican. So it's really unfortunate. And one of the things we want to do is make a bison pemmican. Right now, we have beef, but we want to make a buffalo one to support buffalo ranches, because I think 80% of the buffalo currently alive are privately owned. So they're treated sort of like livestock. And I think out of that, what's his name? The CNN guy. Come on. The guy who started CNN. Tim Turner, something Turner. Ted Turner. Ed Turner owns 50% of the buffalo in the world. One guy.
Is he selling them for meat, or is there pets? Are they pets or what? Is he just
He sells some for meat. He sells, he has restaurants. And
oh, interesting.
I don't know if you can buy it but anyways, there's a lot of independent buffalo producers out there. And so we're going to get into that. And that sort of speaks to our bigger mission at Steadfast, which is really to support kind of family-owned ranches and farms. Because when you talk about making America healthy again, the first thing you need to think about is not mRNA cancer vaccines. The first thing you need to think about is our soil healthy? Sure. If our soil is healthy, then the livestock can be healthy, the plants can be healthy, the crops can be healthy, the people who eat them can be healthy too. And it's very clear that family-owned farms and ranches are the ones who take care of soil, right? They are incentivized to take care of the land because they're going to pass it down through their family. And they have a way of life that is connected to the land, like it's a member of their family. And so we have a problem over the last 30, 40 years. More and more livestock production is being centralized into factory farms, obviously, and that includes beef. And so family-owned producers are getting squeezed. And during COVID, that got a lot worse. And part of that has to do with the processing. So in addition to family-owned producers, it's really important to have small-scale processors who slaughter and cut the animals. And I think it's something like 90% of the meat in America is processed by one of four companies. So JBS is a huge one. It's a Brazilian company. Tyson's a huge one. And these companies are they are more or less a cartel. They're more or less a cartel. So they set prices that together, the four of them sort of set the prices for animals that they'll buy from the ranchers. And they set that price pretty low, right? And they set the price which they sell the beef for, which of course in the last 4 or 5 years has gone up dramatically, right? And it spiked a lot during COVID too. So they set the prices high for the consumer and the price of the animal cheap for the producer. So they're squeezing us and they're squeezing ranchers, right? It's a double squeeze. And the way to fight that is to get as much of your livestock as you can, as much of your meat as you can from family-owned producers and small-scale processors. That's what we've always done with Steadfast. First in Oregon, we sourced all of our beef from a ranch called Organic Beef Co. out in Madras, which was cut at a place in Canby. And then now we're building our own production facility because the processor that we were hiring to make the pemmican for us is basically not been fast enough to meet our demand. So we're starting our own kitchen, and that is going to be based in Montana, about 5 miles down the road from a locally owned and small scale slaughterhouse, which will source the meat from family owned ranches around southwestern Montana. So it's kind of an optimal setup, and it's an amazing way to use parts of the animal that are harder to sell. So when you have a beef, you have steaks, right? Those are really easy to sell. The ribeyes sell themselves. The tenderloin, like those will sell, no problem. Harder to sell ground beef because you end up with a ton of ground beef. Harder to sell lean roast cuts like a London broil or a round roast. Those are more difficult to sell anymore because most people don't know how to cook big cuts of beef, right? And so basically we're taking those parts and then we're taking the fat, so we take these pieces of the animal that are much more difficult to market and process them into this high value food and sell them that way. So really the genesis of Steadfast Provisions was I was working at a livestock farm and we had a walk-in freezer that was about 25% filled with animal fat, just frozen fat. And it was so hard to sell because people either they think animal fat is bad for you, which is not true, or they don't want to deal with fat because it's hard to clean up, which is understandable, or they don't know how to deal with fat because, it's kind of a foreign thing to us culturally. So I was looking around at all this fat and I was like, this is the absolute gold of a farm. The fat is essentially the sunshine, crystallized sunshine, basically of the land, and it's the best part of a farm's production. Basically, is in the fat. It's chock full of minerals and vitamins and acids that are anti-inflammatory, and all kinds of really good things are in animal fat. And so I was like, this is a travesty to sit on all this and not sell it, and God forbid we waste it, you know. So that was when it really clicked, and I was like, okay, the world needs a pemmican company, and nobody else is going to do it. So
Yeah, I mean, I know you've been having some success. I've watched you. I watched you go from from having the idea, and I've seen you over the last couple of years, and that you started putting together the packaging, and then figuring it all out, and the website, and then you started selling it, and you sold out, right? That was I thought that was so obviously you're having some success. I think you've been having some success with this.
yeah, absolutely. Way more success than I had anticipated. I never expected to hit like a $20,000 a month with this pemmican, and we did that within 1 year of launching, and it's kind of surreal. And I was elated until we ran out of product, and then our processor informed us that it was going to be another 6 to 8 weeks before we got another batch in.
And I know that once you're able to get this production facility going, I know that I have confidence that whatever you produce, you're going to be able to sell it. You're going to figure it out. Like you know how to market, how to, find the, I guess what product market fit, they say, or whatever it is.
Yeah. I mean, it's this stuff. The pemmican sells itself to people who know about it. There's much more of a market than I anticipated. The search volume on Google for pemmican is something like 1/5 of the search volume of jerky, right? And beef jerky is a huge category. There's 10,000 beef jerky companies.
Yeah.
And so if let's say, beef jerky is I don't know, that's probably a $100 million industry, maybe more, probably more. But I think there's some number of millions that pemmican could be, and maybe down the line get a military contract. So I definitely think it's worth the investment. And right now we're running a Kickstarter to help us kind of get off the ground with the new kitchen, because if any of you have built any type of industrial or processing facility, you'll understand that it ends up being much more expensive than you could anticipate, because you're halfway through and suddenly you realize you need a $15,000 electrical wiring setup,
Okay. So this is the website. That's Pemmican right there for what it looks like.
Yeah.
Little bar.
It looks like a burger, just like a hardened burger.
Sure. And there's the beautiful packaging. So, how does the Kickstarter work? Like, what exactly?
We'll scroll back. Stop here. Go down. Go back down to that picture.
Where is that in the background? That photo.
This big photo.
Yeah.
I don't know where that is. I searched for hours to try and find a picture with the mountains in the background, the cows in the front. And I finally
that's a nice picture. So here's the bars too. You can have I bought the brick 3-day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Here's a little.
And you can see the most gratifying thing about this is that people love this stuff, man. Like 20 reviews on the brick, and all 5 stars. It's
only 20? We got to get people leaving more reviews.
I know. I don't send enough notifications.
Yeah, you have to kind of make people do it.
Yeah, it's true.
What did you want me to look at? You said
go back to the home page. Yeah, scroll down a little bit. Scroll down. Yeah, right there. This picture right there. That mountain is so beautiful. It's in the Sierras, and that was day 5 of a backpacking trip I did in 2023, where I hiked the entire John Muir Trail in California, which is 220 miles. And I was eating almost only pemmican. The plan was to eat only pemmican, but I didn't give myself enough time to go into ketosis before the hike started.
Oh, you didn't adapt. You had to adapt to it first.
Yeah, and it only took 5 days, and I should have taken like 2 weeks, really, because Yeah,
I'm doing keto carnivore, and I'm telling you, like, I'm only now adapting, and it's been like 9 months. Like, it took me a while. Like,
well, yeah, I mean, I think it always
it's a
varies.
beautiful, beautiful photo with that
Yeah,
mirror.
it was amazing, man. I watched the sunrise over that lake, and the reflection of the gorgeous mountain. It's called Banner Mountain. It is or Banner Peak, and that is Ansel Adams' favorite mountain. If you've ever seen those landscape photographs that he takes, and so that was Pemmican for me, fueling most of that trip. I basically would take Pemmican and melt it with a little bit of ramen, just the noodles, just to have some carbs. And if I and
make a little soup, kind of.
Yeah, a little soup, melted it down, and it ended up being really rich and satisfying. And then the hold on a second. The other thing I did was take potato flakes, just to give myself a little bit of carbs. And so my favorite thing to do with Pemmican is to go backpacking with it and take a bar, put it in a mug, break it into pieces, put it in a mug, and then pour hot water over it to melt it, and then sprinkle in a bunch of dehydrated potato flakes. And you have like a loaded baked potato soup, basically. And it hits the spot, and you can just go forever. You can go for days on that.
So we have someone in the comment in the chat, Galoglas, I think that's how you say it. Anyhow, he says, I do historical reenactment, and Pemmican is great to bring on events. I have used yours for several events.
Cheers. That's awesome. I'd love to hear about that. I'd be curious what type of events. If you want to shoot me an email and tell me more, I'd love to hear about it. hello@steadfastprovisions.com.
Or he could even put it in the comment section too. But with people, I think carnivore is becoming such a big thing now, carnivore, backpacking and hiking and outdoors, and keto preppers. There's so many people who want this stuff, so
yeah.
So this is, I'm really excited for you about this company that you got.
Yeah, me too, man. And there are a few people who are major Pemmican enthusiasts. We have a guy who's a lawyer in LA who's on a carnivore diet, and he just buys bags and bags and bags of bricks and bricks and bricks. And, as soon as we get it back in stock, I know that he's placing a few orders. And then the Kickstarter, if you go up to the top of the page there, and click the main button. Yeah, pre-order, that button. Yeah. That'll take you to the Kickstarter page, which...
Oh, it's not... Oh, I have to stop this screen, and then it opened another tab.
Tab.
I have to pull that tab up.
The Kickstarter, so far we've raised 45% of our goal, about $13,400 worth of pledges. And basically, this is a great way to get Pemmican at 15 to 20% off, depending on how much you buy. So we have a sweet little video, which would be fun to watch.
All right. You want to do that now?
Yeah, let it rip.
All right. Can you hear it?
I can.
This is the food that won the West. Native hunters, fur trappers, and Arctic explorers used this for centuries to thrive in adverse conditions. My name is Maricos Rhodes. I'm a farmer, wilderness adventurer, and animal fat enthusiast. I founded Steadfast Provisions to bring it back. This is Pemmican. It's dried beef mixed with fat. A very simple food, difficult to make, with incredible superfood properties. First of all, This food is totally non-perishable. It'll keep for years on end when stored in the right conditions. Second, this is the most nutrient-dense food that you can bring with you anywhere at over 175 calories per ounce. Third, this food is a complete food. If you go into a ketogenic state, you can eat only this food for months on end. Now, for 2 years, we've been producing this amazing product, delicious, lots of 5-star reviews. Now our demand is so high that we need to open up our own production facility to make pemmican. That's where you come in. Your pledge money will support us buying a premium smokehouse to dry the beef, an industrial-sized kettle to render the beef fat, and a vacuum sealer to create the most beautiful and functional packaging possible. When you make a pledge to support our Pemmican Kitchen project, you'll get delicious pemmican at 15 to 20% off. Make your pledge today to receive your pemmican as soon as it's ready. Thank you very much for your support, and God bless. Be strong in the wild.
Okay, be strong in the wild. That's the motto, I guess. Oh, I can't hear you. Did you mute yourself?
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
That's the slogan. It's
Slogan.
sort of a riff from St. Paul, be strong in the Lord.
Okay.
You know, be strong in the wild. The idea is basically whether you're in the wild nature, the wilderness, or it's just a wild time, like when the SHIT hits the fan, you got to be strong. You got to be there for your people. You got to have excess energy that you can spend to protect and provide no matter what, right? So this is the ethic of the proper ethic of prepping is not, I need to have like everything for myself so I can like hunker down. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's wrong. It's not gonna. That's not.
That's actually like Elder Paisios commented on this, you know, or saints through the ages have commented on this. If there's like a let's say there's famine, you know, you actually have to share what you have. You know, you can't just like keep it all for yourself. If your neighbor is hungry, you can't just let him die. You know, so
Totally, absolutely, man. And actually, basically, the most important thing in any type of emergency situation is going to be teamwork and your people. You know, do you have family?
Right.
Do you have friends? Do you have
community, yeah,
a parish and community that you can support? And as we know, it's more important to support than to be supported. And it's more important to give than to receive. So basically what the beauty of pemmican is that you can have a little bit and go for a long time. Super energy packed, and it's easy to share. You know, I like to think of it as an analog sort of currency. Even it's not a cryptocurrency. It's like it's more like a silver currency. You know,
sure.
if you have a 4-ounce pemmican bar, that's worth, you know, I sell them for $17. That's worth basically a silver coin, you know, and that.
Well, at the price today's price, more like 2-ounce silver coins, basically, or that's a half. You could get 2 of those for a silver coin.
Oh, really? What's the spot price of silver now?
$32. It's been going up, and
okay.
I think it's probably going to keep going up with all this, you know, Trump wildness and geopolitical uncertainty and a lot of issues. That's wrong. Different episode, different podcast.
Yeah. Well, if you take, you know, 30 silver coins, you could get 60 pemmican bars. You know,
30. Yeah.
So it's also part of, I think, what it means to make America healthy again is to return to the values that basically made America great again too, right? Which are basically looking out for each other. You know, for most of our history, our government was sort of like hands off. You know what I mean? Like, we didn't really even have public schools until fairly recently. And so unfortunately, we didn't always do the best job of looking out for each other. But when good people did the right thing, they did, you know, and there might come a time when we can't rely on the government to, you know, take care of things and maintain order. And so at that time, how are you going to stay healthy? You have to give. You have to basically take care of people and put others first.
And this is definitely a healthy food. I have every time I make a batch, whenever I see top round on sale, I buy 10 pounds, dry it, make the stuff, and then I'll vacuum seal. Like, I'll make one package of vacuum sealed pemmican, and I throw it in the back of my pantry, and it's like slowly building up, and that stuff will never go bad. It'll stay forever. And so I'm just building up a stockpile of pemmican. And I think this is a good, we don't need to be like going over the top with our prepping, but as a general rule, I think it's a general idea. It's a good idea for people to have like you need like a couple weeks, a month worth of food in case, COVID or something happens, or war, or electricity goes out. It's a general good, sensible thing to do, to have some pemmican on hand, or some other, sardines or whatever it might be. Good, healthy food.
100%. And, when that goes down, Daniel, you're going to be an asset, not a liability, because you've got pemmican on deck, plus you're strong,
Sure.
So you got to think about, like, what is your post-apocalyptic warlord potential, right? And you got to max that out if you can. Not so that you can dominate, but so that you can serve.
Sure. Yeah. I would probably be good for me to have, it's not a good idea for me personally to have guns, but I think this Galogas guy, he looks like a warrior in this picture there or something. I don't know. I'm sure he's got guns. It's good to have guns and know how to use them. I think, again, another episode, different episode. Not for me personally. It's not a good idea for me to have a gun. And I don't need to explain why that is, but some people could probably figure that out. So actually, I had a few questions from the video that popped up in my head.
Yeah.
First of all, so you used the term. Well, tell us about, you had the whole idea with the labeling. You had a run in with the FDA or something, or what happened with that? There was like a story there, right?
The USDA.
The use of the term pemmican.
Yeah, one sec. Yeah, it was the USDA. Sorry, I get allergic just thinking about it. Basically, they have really strict label requirements that are sort of arbitrary. So they didn't have an official definition of pemmican because it had been 100 years since somebody had manufactured it at any scale. And so I put pemmican on the label, and they were like, we can't prove that this is pemmican because we don't know what pemmican is. And I was like, okay, here's 3 different dictionaries defining what pemmican is, and here's my product. It's exactly what pemmican is. It's just dried beef mixed with fat, and they wouldn't accept it. And they made me put beef bar or beef brick, just unspecified beef, which is not helpful at all. Like, okay, it's beef, but is it like shelf stable? Is it need to be refrigerated? Like, what is the deal with this beef? It was very.
I wanted you to call it beefcakes.
Yeah, I don't think they would let that fly either.
Oh,
They'd be like, well, in order for it to be a cake, it has to have frosting, or something. They would say something like that, in that kind of voice. And the USDA, basically, this is why I would love to have somebody like Thomas Massey take over, because you'd think there would be a little bit fewer shenanigans.
Hmm.
And they have an important job as far as making sure that production facilities are clean and sanitary and everything, no question. There's a lot of people, a lot of brands that would cut corners if the regulators weren't there keeping them honest. The
Right.
problem is that the regulatory burden falls really hard on small scale producers, and the big scale producers are the ones that can eat it, because they have more margins and just generally more money to pay for that kind of stuff. And so what happened is they finally, after 6 months, simply decided that I could use Pemmican after all on the labels. And so I switched back to Pemmican from Beef Bar. And then 6 months after that, I had a new batch coming down, and I thought it was going to be delivered on Monday, and I didn't hear anything from the processor. And then on like Thursday, I called and I said, "Hey, what's going on? I thought I was going to have this Pemmican." And they were like, "Oh, it got recalled by the USDA because of an issue with the label." And I was like, "Well, they already approved the label." But they changed their mind about the label that they approved like 3 batches later. And they said, "Oh no, this one we have to recall. We're going to take away." And so they, recalled it and held it for another 2 months, and this,
Hmm.
it's really frustrating, basically.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Steadfast Provisions. If you're going to start a company and call it Steadfast Provisions, you're going to get tested as to whether you are what you represent. Am I steadfast enough to put up with a mountain of BS at every turn, or like tons of little problems? Every startup has to deal with this, but it seems like when you're making a product that hasn't been made in 100 years, and also just anytime you're selling meat in general, it's kind of a regulatory hassle. You really do have to be steadfast. So that's what I've learned, and I've learned to roll with it and be patient. And we are growing, obviously. In that Kickstarter page, somewhere down the line.
You want me to bring that back up?
You know what? I don't have the picture, but I'll send you a picture. Or if you go to my Instagram, there's a picture of me with the smokehouse. I got this massive smokehouse used. I got all like really high quality but pre-owned equipment for the kitchen, and it's like a walk-in smokehouse.
Okay, let me pull it up here. Also, while I'm working on that, could you you said something in the video about it being completely non-perishable. You probably had to be careful with your wording, right? About how you said that.
Yeah. As far as the USDA is concerned, it has a shelf life of 2 years. But I have pemmican that I made in 2021 that I still eat now, and it's still fine. And the historical record indicates that pemmican lasts for 20 years, at least. And there's a guy on YouTube. Gosh, what's that guy's name? He's crazy. He eats all kinds of MREs and stuff, and he ate a 100-year-old jar of pemmican. 100, like from 1908, and he pulled this out in like 2016 and ate it, and he was fine. Yeah, scroll down a little bit and keep going. Yeah, there we go. In the middle, it says "Big Things Coming." Up a little bit. Yeah, that one. Yeah, click that. That is the smokehouse that we got. I'm really proud.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that thing's awesome. You can fit 350 pounds of beef in there, and dry it out. So that is sort of the centerpiece of the kitchen, and got it used. And it turns out it's Polish, which is awesome. Poles make high quality stuff. So
Big fat announcement.
Big fat announcement. That was the day before I launched a Kickstarter.
Mm.
So yeah, so we're running the Kickstarter. We're almost halfway there, and we're about halfway through the window of it. So go on there and make pledges and share with your friends. And
so pledge, you're not asking for a handout. You're just trying to say, you're just saying or pre-order basically, right? Say I'm going to buy some.
Yeah, if you go,
I can go to the different
Kickstarter.
Right.
We can go through the different items that you can pre-order. You can get. There's a lot of different levels. I had one guy who pre-ordered at the $1,000 level.
Really?
So,
was that the lawyer guy?
No, a different guy. Go down, click rewards there in the top left. Yeah. So $14 for a bar. Normally they're $17, and then you can scroll down. 1 bar taste test, spirit supporter, couple. If you do want to just give money, you can do that too. A few people have done that. Weekend warrior, I think that's 3 bars. You'll get a seasoned bar, a salted bar, and an unseasoned bar, and that's 41, and it would be 51 normally. Brick stacker, 2 bricks, and normally that would be about $200. So that's about 15% off there. And 2 bricks, 3 bars, fur trapper status, 14 backers at that level. And then Bucket King. This one's cool. So basically with Pemmican, one interesting thing is that the packaging will decay faster than the product inside.
Wow.
Yeah. So the packaging is rated to last about 7 to 8 years. You can extend that shelf life for the packaging indefinitely if you give it a totally dry environment and a very low oxygen environment and a dark environment. So I have this bucket that has a gasket seal, and inside that bucket, there's 7 bricks. And then there is a big desiccant pack, which absorbs all the moisture, and a big oxygen pack, which grabs all the oxygen out of there. So basically what you do is you get the bucket, open it up, take a look, make sure that the seal is intact on all of the brick packages, and then you put them all in, you open up the oxygen grabber, you open up the desiccant, you put that in, and then you close the bucket, seal it up, and then you forget about it. And then when you need it in 22 years, or when your grandkids need it in 32 years in an emergency, then you can pull it out and it should be good to go.
Well, it's good to know that the packaging lasts for 7 to 8 years, so that I'll know I need to go and start rotating what I bought before and eat it.
Yeah. So this is 1,000. This is what one guy signed up for this to go on a backpacking trip with me in Montana.
Oh, so you get a backpacking trip with it?
Yeah, you come out. We'll do a 2-night backpacking trip. There's some great hikes in the Absaroka Mountains. Can go down towards Yellowstone. Amazing place. Beautiful.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah,
good idea.
And then you go home with Pemmican too.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
So those are rewards, and basically, it's all, if everything goes according to plan, which it's looking pretty airtight. I basically just submitted my final amendment to my operating plan to the county there in Montana, because the county will be regulating the kitchen. So they're going to certify me soon. I should be able to, if that Kickstarter goes through, get things running in March, and then have Pemmican shipped out by the end of April is the goal.
Now, I also want to make sure people go to the website, steadfastprovisions.com. There's a link in the description, and make sure you come here and you get on the list. Put your email in and let's go, because he'll send out regular updates and kind of funny stories. And I think you have a blog or something like that, right? And
yeah,
so you'll get probably offers and things like that, I'm sure. I think you get 11% off your first order. So be sure to do that. If you're watching, go to the website, and there's links below for the website and also for the Kickstarter. So how about the other thing you mentioned? It was a superfood. Now you can. I think you don't have to ask the USDA for that to use that term, do you?
Yeah, they didn't let me put that on the package.
They didn't.
Nope.
Nope. I thought superfood was a freebie. Anybody could just say, because there's no really official definition of that, right?
Not that I'm aware of. I don't know. There might be a different standard for like fruits and vegetables.
Huh.
Basically, all kinds of fruits and vegetables easily get labeled as superfoods.
Right.
But then when it comes to meat, like sort of the ultimate superfood,
right?
From the
like
right,
you can survive on meat. That's all you know.
Yeah. You can survive on just meat, and like I said before, the fat in grass-fed beef contains so many minerals and antioxidants and great nutrients for you.
Fat soluble vitamins that you can't find.
Exactly.
You don't get it's hard. You don't get those other places quite as easily, or they don't absorb as easily and that kind of thing. So
yeah.
This is great, man. You got a good, a really good product that's going to be healthy. It's like you can feel good about your business, like you're doing good things.
And the other thing, there's two other things I'll end with. One is that this is a small contribution to making America healthy again, because we can make America farm again, make America ranch again, make those two professions viable, and the way you do that is by sourcing your meat from those producers. So that's what we're doing. And when you buy Steadfast Provisions, you're doing that too. And the other thing is that we're actually looking for some help there in Montana. So if anybody's diligent and wants an awesome job building a growing company and making high quality pemmican, shout us out in the comments.
There you go. Montana. Is there any young man out there watching who needs a job, who wants to move to Montana? I mean, it sounds beautiful, doesn't it? And make pemmican. Is that what you want to do? Get in contact.
Yep. Let's do it.
I'll have to say also, I want to tell you that, I'm now a partner with John Mance.
Yes.
And I'm trying to put together this website and stuff for the beard oil. So you are kind of like, I saw you do your business, and now I have like a model to follow as I try to get into the beard oil business, which is people should look for in 2025 on my channel. I'll be selling beard oil here soon enough.
That beard oil is the best. I use it twice a day.
It is good quality. Yeah, he uses the best. Yeah, the best quality ingredients. So if we have no question, is there any questions from the audience? Anything else you want to say? How people can find you?
Let's see. Find me steadfastprovisions.com, Instagram, Facebook, Steadfast Provisions, on Gab, Steadfast Provisions, and take care of the soil. Take care of the soil, take care of the families that take care of the soil. And that's how we make America healthy again.
Right on. And this just happened to be like on the day that RFK became the commissioner for the Department of Health and Human Services. That was announced today that he was confirmed. So
yeah, I mean, we should get some pemmican in his hands. I'm sure
absolutely.
He would love it, because I think he avoids carbs and stuff.
Oh yeah, that guy looks healthy too. He's
kind of jacked. I think he's on THC.
Probably could be.
Actually, I know he is.
Is he?
Yep. And he makes it look good.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude's ripped. Yeah, down the line, I hope someday we're gonna have a military contract for the pemmican.
Oh, that would be awesome too. Good.
Yeah. Hopefully we don't go to war, but if we do, people got to eat.
Right. Okay, so I'd like to thank everybody for joining us. I'd like to thank our guest, David Treebeard, and we will catch you all on the next one. Good night, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. God bless.